Hello again, and welcome back to Ultimate Health Radio. I'm Dr. Brad Shapiro, excited to do another great show. I always enjoy doing these things. I hope you guys have enjoyed the things that we talked about in the past. Just to recap you, we're talking about tools of empowerment. First show was about balance, perseverance, and discipline. Second show was about goals and commitment. In the third show was about acceptance and expecting the unexpected. This fourth show is going to be about plateaus and investments. I hope you guys are getting a lot out of this. If you missed any of the shows, you can always go back and find them on our Facebook page, or we've done a post in terms of how you can listen to them on either iTunes or Android phones. There's easy ways to listen to them, just depending on what type of device that you have. And as far as I understand, all these options are free. So again, even if you don't have an iPhone, and iTunes is not a possibility, you can still listen it through the Android apps. And we've got information about that on our Facebook page. Just look up Ultimate Health Radio. You'll find us on Facebook, and that'll fill you in on any past shows and how you can listen to the shows. But with that, we'll get started on this fourth show. And again, it's going to be about plateaus and investments. Plateaus, I like to just describe it as simply, it's just a basic part of life. You're going to hit plateaus with your exercise. You're going to hit plateaus with your health. You're going to hit plateaus within business. You're going to hit plateaus within your relationships. You're going to hit plateaus within anything you can imagine. You're going to have those periods where you're cooking with gas and you can do no wrong and you're really making great progress. And then other times where you're a little bit more of a plateau and it's a little bit harder to keep the ball rolling. It's a little bit harder to maintain. And I'm not even sure I should use the word harder. It's just a different season. Plateaus are really just kind of a season in life that you'll hit from time to time. Nobody makes just huge leaps and bounds in terms of progress every single time. Actually, those big moments, those macro moments, those large moments are actually, in many ways, and based on a lot of the research, much less significant than the micro moments, those small choices that you make. And when you're in the middle of a plateau where you don't feel like you're making progress, it can be more difficult to continue to make those small choices. We all want to taste success. We all want to get that, great grade on a test. We all want to see those huge strides in terms of our relationships and our intimacy. We all want to see huge strides within our businesses. But again, sometimes you'll hit those plateaus. And so one of the things to think about, and this is not, like I've mentioned in past shows, this list or this perspective on tools of empowerment, it's not the only perspective out there when it comes to success principles. But it's just something that I want to share with you guys in hopes that it'll help you. But there's a couple different mindsets that you can take on when it comes to plateaus. Number one, you may just need to stay the course. Sometimes there's a tendency to jump all over the place, kind of like a jackrabbit, constantly make changes, especially when you're in the middle of a plateau and it doesn't seem like you're making progress. But in some instances, the best thing you can do is hold the course and stick in the direction that you're going in. I'll be honest with you, discernment is a big part of what I think about. Just to kind of break off for 2 seconds, we do a thing in our family where every year we pick a certain word for us as individuals as well as a family word. So we're a family of 3, myself, my wife, and our son. My word this year is discernment. How do I know when to go left versus right? How do I know when to just stay the course in a plateau or make a change? How do I know what decisions to make? Because, as the leader of our family, and I'm talking about leadership. I'm talking about a servant leader. I'm not talking about a dictator. I absolutely take my wife's perspectives and our son's perspective seriously, but every team's got to have a leader. I know that's kind of a dirty word in today's environment. A lot of people have a hard time with the idea of leadership, from my experience, a lot of times they just confuse it with dictatorship. I'm not interested in being a dictator, a king over my family, anything like that, but I do want to provide them with solid leadership. And as John Maxwell says, if you have influence, you're a leader. So sometimes it fluctuates. Sometimes the best thing I can do is listen. But at the end of the day, somebody's got to make the final decision, and that's my role within our house and within our clinics. And so I want to make sure I've got strong discernment to make the best choices possible. For me, the most important thing is prayer and meditation. I want to really spend some time with the Lord, really make sure I hear from Him. I like to tell people when I know, meaning when I know I've received something from God, I know that He's told me something in prayer or through another person or through meditation. I know when I know. But if I don't, I want to stay patient and try to figure out, again, should I stay the course in the middle of this plateau or should I make a change? My wife and son's word this year is discipline. We talked about discipline in the very first show in this series of Tools of Empowerment. Again, discipline is defined as behavior and order maintained by training and control. And just so you know, we talked about these words. It's not like I just said, this is your word, this is your word, this is my word. We talked about it, we discussed it, we came to a realization that everybody was comfortable with whatever words they had. To be transparent with you, the word discernment was my wife's idea. She said it, and I knew, man, ding, 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 that's exactly what I've been looking for. That's exactly the perfect word for me. But we stayed patient until we all were sure. And then our family word is unity, which that's something we'll talk about in a later show. But I say all that to say discernment is a big part of a lot of different situations, and it's definitely a big part of when you're in the middle of a plateau. So again, should I just stay the course in the middle of a plateau and just know that once it runs its course, we'll begin to make progress and in positive progress moving forward? Or do I need to make a change and start switching the approach so we can get the results we're looking for? But plateaus, again, you're going to be faced with these periods of plateaus. So the $1 million question is, do you want to make a change or do you want to stay the course? And for me, I'm a big believer, as it says in Scripture, that God's thinking is higher than ours, including mine. And so that's where I go for the discernment and the answers I'm looking for, whether it's in the middle of a plateau or something else. Second thing that we talked about, or that we will talk about, is investments. And I just got it defined. This is my definition, but I just say investments need to be honored and protected. When you make an investment of your time, when you make an investment of your money, and this plays into a plateau, because sometimes you're invested in that plateau. You've really thought about it. You've prayed about it. You've discussed it with authorities on the subject. You've really given it some great consideration. So you've invested a certain amount of time, and in some cases money, in some cases energy. Usually it's a combination of many different things, but you've made an investment, and that needs to be honored and protected. And so that plays into plateaus as well, because again, depending on the level of investment you've made, depending on the level of certainty that you had when you made the decision, depending on the environment and everything else, you may want to continue to honor that investment and stick with and just ride that plateau out. Or the reverse might be true. The best way to honor the investment, the time, the energy, the finances, whatever you've put into a certain situation, maybe the best way to honor that is to switch gears and make a change in order to get through that plateau. But I really believe that these things need to be honored and protected. People need to understand and respect and treat people with dignity when they're investing in them. We all, probably our greatest asset here on this planet is our time. You can never get your time back. So when somebody takes the time to invest in you or to invest in something else, that needs to be honored, that needs to be protected, that needs to be appreciated. And that plays into any number of things, including plateaus. But I just think that's important for people to understand, because sometimes investments are not honored. Sometimes people take things for granted, myself included. And when you know somebody's putting their time, money, effort, energy, whatever into you or something else that's worthwhile, I believe it needs to be honored and it needs to be protected. So these are just things to think about. I appreciate you guys joining us again. Hopefully this was beneficial. Just wrestle with these things. If there's at any point you feel like these are things you can use, I would strongly encourage you to put them into action. As the saying goes, it's not knowledge that is power, it's applied knowledge that is power, meaning you've got to put things in action to produce anything. If you just stick them on the shelf and don't do anything with the information you have, it's not going to amount to anything. But if you think you can use these things, then I would encourage you to go for it. If you don't, no big deal. I like to call this type of process plucking the pearls. When I hear something, or when I listen to a podcast, or when I have a conversation, I try to pluck the pearls. I try to pluck out the things that really resonate with me, and then disregard the other things with respect and with dignity. I'd like to respectfully disagree, and that's okay. You guys don't have to agree with me. No two people are going to see things the exact same way. There's another old saying, there's a grain of truth to any side of an argument. So just think about these things. I hope they can help sincerely, just because I want to see you guys grow and change and really be empowered. As we've talked about in past shows, we talked about uniqueness, and this really applies to the idea that I'm not going to see things the exact same way anybody else will, or vice versa. We're all unique. We all have different brain function. We all have different life experiences. We all have different genetics, personality types, metabolisms. You can just go on and on and on. So that's why I throw that out there, because if you are unique, and I know that you are, you're not going to see everything the exact same way I do. So my goal really is just to throw these things out there. If you can use them, great. If not, no big deal. And second, empowerment. A lot of why I call these things tools of empowerment is I want them to be something that people can take, put into action, see better results in their relationships, within their health, within their work, whatever different areas of their lives. I want to see these things be something that can be utilized in order to empower people and to help people. So just think about that. If you can use this stuff, great. If not, no big deal. Regardless, I hope you guys have a great day, a blessed day, and we will talk to you again next week. Again, I'm going to do 2 of these a week. We're going to continue down this road of tools of empowerment. I'm going to crank out 2 per week. They won't always be on the same days, but you can count on 2 per week. So have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.